Hey, it's February 23rd, and this must be Tech Talk Tuesday. Or
Wait a second. It's Tuesday?
It's Tuesday. It's 7 p.m. It's on the nose, Eastern time, Neil.
Oh, is it Eastern?
It is. It's Easter time.
Oh, it's about Easter time.
It is almost Easter time, actually. That unfortunately worked out too well. Hey, everybody. I'm Matt, joined always with Neil, and we're here making dad jokes about time zones.
That's right.
That was the end of the show. Thanks, everybody, for wait, I guess we do have some stories that we can cover. So Tech Talk Tuesday, if you're not familiar, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, hey, thanks for coming, and I'm sorry for shaming you. We like to take tech news from kind of around the world and kind of distill it down. And lately, we've had the help of a couple partners in crime, Aaron and Chad. They've been kind enough to join us. And I guess with that, we'll just lead into our first story, our love of NASA with the Perseverance rover.
This week in news, 3:55 p.m. Eastern Time. Following a smooth descent to the surface, NASA's Perseverance rover successfully completed its journey to Mars. In classic nerd fashion, the first image posted by the rover was a photo captioned "Hello World," immediately recognizable to any programmer or software engineer as the first step in any new project. So why not make it the first step in space exploration too? This news marks the end of a 7-month journey from Earth to Mars that started on July 30th, 2020. After traveling for 36 million miles, the spacecraft faced its second big hurdle in what NASA engineers dubbed the 7 minutes of terror. These 7 minutes required for atmospheric entry would make or break the entire 5-year mission on Mars, with the NASA engineering team only able to sit back and watch years of work boil down into just 7 minutes of autonomous execution. Despite the high degree of difficulty, Perseverance performed its entry duties beautifully. The rover handled a 12,000 mile per hour entry speed, 2,300 degree atmospheric friction temperatures, deployed its parachute, and activated its retro rockets, all while monitoring for large rocks and avoiding local sandstorms on the surface. Despite only a 50% success rate on previous missions, Perseverance did just that. It persevered, landing in a dusty and hazardous 28-mile section of Mars known as the Jezero Crater. This crater is believed to have been an ancient river and is the most likely place to house any ancient microbial life, fossils, or Martian superheroes. Our Martian rover and accompanying surveillance drone Ingenuity are tasked and equipped for a 5-year mission to survey the surrounding area and collect Martian rock and soil samples, caching up to 46 samples around the crater. In 2026, a subsequent mission will attempt to return the collected specimens back to Earth from the Martian surface. For science. Back to you, nerds.
That moment when Neil realizes that he hasn't scaled the frame.
That's right. Yeah. This is the one I had to redo. So
I just watching your face on the monitor, like when it popped up, I could just see it like, oh.
Yeah. But getting back to Perseverance, this is a super cool thing with a long lead up time. They've been working on this for a long time over at NASA. And this is really cool because it's bringing us high definition and high resolution photos of Mars, like the surface of Mars, which we haven't ever really had. So this is really neat. I can't wait to see what all of the pictures are. I've been following along as they've been sending stuff back, and it's just really, really cool.
I think it's interesting. Hello World. I thought that was actually not just like the beginning of any good project. I thought that's actually where I stop.
Yeah. I mean, when you learn a programming language, you stop there.
That's right. Yeah, I find that is the best feature that I will ever put together.
Yeah, it's all downhill from there.
It is all downhill. I thought it was interesting that Aaron was reporting that they're using retro rockets, and I'm like, wow, I wonder what era those are from.
Yeah, that's right. Are they like 80s, 70s? Like,
dude, it's totally tubular rockets, man.
That's right.
So something I guess that's not so retro, although definitely harkens back to a furbier time, is the Panasonic's launch of the Nicobo robot. And here's Chad with that story.
This last week, Panasonic introduced us to its new pet companion robot, Nicoba. It looks, first of all, it looks part sock puppet, part Furby on steroids, if you will. It does have a camera in its eyes. It will recognize faces. It does recognize voice as well as other sounds around it. Has a light sensor because it'll seek sunlight to take a nap in. And oh, by the way, it does have touch sensors, so it will respond when it's being wagged. Its tail will move around. Sometimes it'll act very similar to a cat where it doesn't like to be petted in a certain way. And it also farts. Yeah, that's right, it farts. Again, leave it to the makers of Panasonic. I have no idea what that's all about. Now, out of the box, it will speak one word, but as time goes on, it will continue to add to its vocabulary, much like a Furby, where I believe they only came out of the box speaking one or two words. This thing will, over time, add on. Now, you might say to yourself, wow, they look cute. Wow, I really want one. However, Panasonic originally only made 320 at a mere $360 a pop. They're already completely sold out, and they were only available in Japan. Whatever. They also, after 6 months, will charge each person $10 a month, sort of like a surcharge for software updates, new features, whatever. Now, if you ask my opinion, it's kind of a high price tag for a device that's going to continue to listen to you and sort of respond to you, much like either your Apple Watch or any other Siri device or your Alexa. Again, don't know.
Chad is the most hand-talkingest person I've ever met.
Not quite sure what to do with my hand.
I'd love that. Got a great point. I think it's interesting. In talking with Chad, one of the things that he noted was he's like, you're really paying like $360. Then you're going to pay another $120 a year, right? So $10 a month on the offhand that you're going to get a cool upgrade of some sort for this, like basically a new aged Furby to do something cool. And in reality, it is definitely listening to you, and they can't have missed out on thinking through the value of having an ever-present, entity basically in your house, just like you mentioned, like Alexa and Siri and all those devices that are constantly listening to you. And I mean, is it going to be funneling all that data and stuff back somewhere to be processed and kind of chewed on? I would say, yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. I mean, we obviously don't know what the inner workings of this thing look like, but that's my guess is that's exactly what's happening. And yeah, I mean, the price point, man, high price point, which just means that they're not going to get users to adopt it, which yeah, I don't know. Furbies were creepy back in the day anyway.
Yes,
so this is just the next generation of creepy for me.
But it's amazing that they've sold out of these things. I mean, when you do the math on that, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just the 90s nostalgia kind of thing going on, but yeah, I mean, this does not interest me at all. So
yeah, I'm with you. It's cute enough, but not cute enough for that price tag.
Yeah. I have 2 dogs and a cat. I'm fine with those.
And they would love to play with this thing. So,
yeah.
Very roughly.
Yeah. It would not last 5 minutes at my house.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, does this thing even have a public API? I don't know. I'm just saying, but that's interesting. So I guess unfortunate segue into things that data made public. There's been a pretty heavy ransomware attack around the country, including California's DMV, where a lot of data got dumped. And actually, here's Aaron with that story.
Next up, California's Department of Motor Vehicles is warning of a data breach after a contractor was hit by ransomware recently. The Seattle-based firm Automatic Funds Transfer Services, AFTS, was hit by an unspecified strain of ransomware earlier this month. The California DMV said that it used AFTS to verify address changes with the National Address Database since 2019. In a statement from the DMV, they said the attack may have compromised the last 20 months of California vehicle registration records, which contains names, addresses, license plate numbers, and vehicle identification numbers. They go on to say that the AFTS does not have access to their customers' social security numbers, dates of birth, voter registration, immigration status, or driver's license information, attempting to ease concerns about what data was leaked from this branch. The California DMV was not the only customer of AFTS to be affected by this breach. AFTS is used across the United States to process payments, invoices, and verify addresses. Several AFTS partners have confirmed that they were also affected by the data breach, suggesting it's not limited to just California's DMV. While no official announcements have been made to declare exactly who the culprit is, TechCrunch.com has reported their suspicions of who the perpetrating group is, following investigation via ransomware expert Brett Callow. The group in question is claiming that they have collected financial documents, correspondence with bank employees, account movements, balance sheets, and tax documents, which is significantly more information than the California DMV reported losing, though this data could be from other clients who process payments directly through AFTS. Callow said that his company's own data on ransomware attacks shows more than 1,300 public and private sector organizations had data published on leak sites during 2020, with many others paying to prevent their data from being published. If you want to find out more about the suspected ransomware group, head over to the article posted on TechCrunch.com about this DMV ransomware attack. Back to you, nerds.
Thank you to our elite hacker, Aaron, for that. But yeah, I mean, this is really, really bad. Like this, I can't stress enough how bad this is. And the fact that it's ransomware is even worse, right? So they're trying to get a lot of money for that. They're going to keep the data, right? Like, let's be honest, like all this data they're keeping, they're just making sure that no one else can use it right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, this is really bad. The fact that it's not just California's DMV as well, like, is even worse. But yeah, a lot of sensitive data got leaked here, and I mean, these are things that like we got to be protecting against. So
yeah, it's interesting that we still don't really understand or know publicly how widespread this was, and it's just like, have we learned nothing? You know.
Yeah, well, and I mean, for the people that are unknowingly affected, right? Like that, it's even worse because if we don't know the depths of that, then like you and I cannot protect ourselves from it. So it's like, hey, do I need to go do these things? Do I need to go change my passwords? Do it, like, what data is out there? Like, am I at risk for identity theft? Like all these things.
Like credit freeze, or do I need to, like, are these are all things that you might want to do. So yeah, it's very upsetting, and it just feels like Groundhog's Day, once again. So yeah, that's super unfortunate, and that's man, just terrible, actually.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe when next time you take a nap, if you're getting all worked up about this, you can have somebody whispering sweet nothings into your ear via an app to maybe brighten up your day. Here's Chad actually with a interesting story about lucid dreaming.
My next article wanted to talk about that brand new study that came out. This will involve future technology that'll be available to the user via your smartphone app. So this new study that came out was basically, it was conducted by concurrent studies in 4 different countries that showed that while people were dreaming, there was ability for them when they were in lucid dreams to be able to respond to questions, whether that was mathematical problems or simple yes or no. They were doing this with facial recognition and EEG technology to monitor brain waves. A lot of times the next days, whether these were math problems or those yes or no's, they would ask the users the next morning if they remembered some of the questions. Oftentimes they did. It ended up being around 30-40% of the times they did. The bigger, broader goal of this study is to expand this to the home study, as I alluded to, be available on your smartphone, and its overall goal is to help you sleep and dream better, if you will, have a deeper sleep, adjust your dreams. Possibly in the future, they want to then further even expand this to assist people with problem solving, learning and honing certain skills, spiritual development, therapy, you name it, all being done while you're sleeping. Fingers crossed, if they can ever come up with a way for this to help me figure out my complex quarterly business reports or things of that nature, then I'm all on board.
I do think this is fascinating that we're continuing. It's like there's all these movies I remember kind of like in the 80s that dealt with sleep experiments, and it was sci-fi kind of stuff where they would get into your dreams and kind of help you break through things. I mean, even recently, like you have like Inception, right? Which is kind of an extreme kind of different take on that, but the thought about like connecting lucid dreaming with actual cognitive capabilities and learning something, or just reinforcing maybe even some behaviors or some like linguistics, or like I said, even math problems and things like that. I think it's fascinating. Turns out I spend a lot of my time asleep, so it would be nice to be able to get something out of that.
Yeah, this is really interesting. It'll be interesting to see if we can find more ways to like get that percentage up, right? Because like 30 to 40%, when I heard that and read it, I was kind of like, okay, so this is worse than a coin flip, right? So it's really, really neat. Like, I'm not trying to bash the tech or anything like that, because it is super cool. But yeah, I mean, I think if this can continue to progress, this could be a great tool for mental health and just therapy in general. So
yeah, I think that's awesome. Definitely excited to see that. We've also seen some peripherals and stuff that have come out in the past couple of years where they're actually mounting kind of the brain sensors. We actually covered that just a few weeks ago, like one of the latest devices. So who knows? I think at the intersection of a lot of these things, AR, VR, kind of like the kind of brain wave scanning and things like that, and then with sleep, it's interesting to see what that amalgamation might look like. What's not an amalgamation that's worth anything is our next segment. And I can say that because I'm the one that did it, Neil. So actually, a lot of people still have not heard about Snapdrop. I know you actually, I was surprised. Like I get excited when I find something that Neil hasn't even heard of. And so, you know what? I'm gonna do myself the service of letting myself describe this very thing. Here's me doing me things. Hey everybody, I'm here today to talk about Snapdrop. Now you've probably never heard of this before, but you've probably had the problem that led me to it. So here I am trying to get a URL over to some of my friends. Sounds easy enough. I'm on an iPhone, but my URL that I'm looking for, it's on a Windows 10 device. So how do I share that content? If it was just another iOS user, I'd probably use something like AirDrop, right? But that's not going to work in this case. So how do I get this information to my iPhone? Well, email sucks. And yeah, you can use Dropbox or you could use something like Google Drive, but it's a little heavy-handed. Total aside, how is this even still an issue in 2021? So that's where Snapdrop enters. So under the hood, it uses WebRTC. And you may not be familiar with that, but it's mostly used in like streaming video. But what's really cool about it is that it encrypts everything that goes on that wire. So nothing is sent to a server, everything is done peer-to-peer. Even better, it's browser-based. So you don't even have to download some heavy app or go through some configuration to set it up. Also, it's totally free, which is my favorite price to pay. So let's just see, how simple is it? Here you can see I have iOS running on the right and Windows 10 on the left, and I've just opened them up in a browser. I'm going to select a URL over on the Windows 10 machine, copy and paste it, and I can right-click and paste the URL in to send a message to myself, and it just shows up over on the iOS side. So the Snapdrop project has actually been around for almost 6 years. It's available on GitHub, so if you're feeling untrustworthy, and I can't blame you, you can actually run your own version of Snapdrop. By the way, if you find yourself using it a lot, maybe kick the guy a couple bucks so he can keep his server running. Just saying. So I hope that you get a chance to use Snapdrop. I use the heck out of it, and I send the guy a couple bucks every month on PayPal. That's how much I love it. It's free, it works on any device type, and it's highly secure. Maybe you should go bookmark it now. Wow, thanks, Matt, for that stunning segment.
Just pat yourself on the back for it, and
I can't. I'm already bruised. So
yeah, that's understandable.
From patting myself so much. Yeah, Snapdrop is awesome, man. I use the heck out of it. You can one of the things I didn't really cover a whole lot there is the fact that you can use you can send files and photos. So it's a great way. Like if I find something, especially for the show, while I'm kind of browsing around on my phone, and I'm like, ooh, I want to kick that over to my Windows machine. Let's add that to the show. It's a great way to do that. I don't leave it up at all the time because it is peer-to-peer. It does a really good job of, it uses a server to kind of, I guess, talk to devices, and it looks at their public IP, basically where they're coming from, to decide, okay, you guys are on the same network, so I'm going to let you guys kind of talk to each other. You guys aren't. So, and I haven't had any problem with that. But again, if you were like at a Starbucks or something like that, I wouldn't want to just sit there probably and leave Snapdrop open. Now, granted, you have to say, I accept, just like you do with AirDrop or something like that, to take on a file. But, why even welcome, the attempt? And I'm always scared of what somebody's going to send me. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. It looked like something you would use?
Well, I use mostly like Apple devices, right? So I can use AirDrop for pretty much all of my devices. But if I didn't have all Apple devices, this is definitely something I'd be doing. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's free is incredible, right? Like, particularly because there's like no barrier to give it a try. So, like, I would suggest people go out and give it a try. Like, you obviously think of it highly and use it a lot. So, yeah, I mean, if you can trust that feller over there, then yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's something that you could definitely give a shot. Obviously, the source code's up there. So if you have a friend that's an engineer or something, like, they could go take a look at it and tell you if it's safe or not. So
yeah, it's a good point. Well, so I guess speaking of receiving things, I guess that you maybe didn't really want, it actually takes us to our kind of viewer question of the week, Neil. What is that?
That question is, what actually does malware do to your computer? So there are lots of different types of malware, but the 6 most common kinds are a virus, which most people have heard of, a worm, gross, a Trojan horse, spyware, adware, and ransomware. So those are like the 6 main kinds that you will more than likely run into if you're going to run into one of these. So a virus is designed to damage a target computer or machine by actually corrupting the data, reformatting your hard disk or your hard drive, or shutting down your machine. All those things, not super great. They can be used to steal your info, harm your machine, like damage it in some way, and many more things. But these are often spread via email attachments and internet downloads. So these are pretty easy to protect yourself from. That's the good news. The next one is a worm. This is one that you may not have heard of, but these spread over computer networks. So these are really things that are kind of targeting business networks, which is a huge gain for them. But they're doing this by exploiting actual operating system vulnerabilities. So these are vulnerabilities in like your Windows like operating system or like iOS. So these will typically like delete files. They'll encrypt data actually for ransomware, or they'll do like other nefarious things such as like steal your data and things like that. So The next one is a Trojan horse, which is not super great either, and it's exactly what it sounds. It disguises itself as a harmless file or program, gets you to run it, and then it tricks you into downloading the actual malware that then gives the hacker access to all of your stuff. So they can use your machine to do things that you have no idea what's going on. So this one, very scary, not great, and they can get all of your information from that. The next one is spyware. This is typically installed on your computer without you knowing. But what these really want is they want to track your habits and your internet activity. So these things will be monitoring anything from like your activities, so like where you're visiting online, things like that, to your account info and even your financial data. So they can get into all of these things. So this one's not great either. Adware. This one is the one that you typically think of, I think, when you have a virus. These put unwanted advertising on your computer screen, but that's not the only thing that it does. It actually collects data on you. It can redirect you to advertising sites. It can change your browser settings, which is scary. And it can also change your default browser and your search settings, as well as your homepage. So like it can do a whole bunch of stuff. So this one is the one that you would probably typically think of when you think of malware, but it's called adware, and it's a very specific kind of malware. And then the last one is ransomware. So this holds your data captive, like we were talking about, and it demands payment for them to release that. So what it does is it restricts your user access to your computer by either encrypting files on it, or just locking down the system completely. And then it'll display an image of some sort to actually like, hey, pay me this money and I'll let you have your machines back. Yeah, this is what we typically see with a lot of businesses right now. It's a super hot kind of way for hackers to get money from people. But these all sound scary. There are ways to protect ourselves from these things. And a lot of it kind of feels like common sense almost. First one, keep your software up to date. Your software tries to automatically update itself all the time. That's not always the route to go, but keeping your software at least close to up to date will help protect yourself from some of these vulnerabilities, because Apple, Windows, all of your software are constantly finding vulnerabilities in what they've written, and they're patching those things to protect you, their users. The next one is don't click links within your emails. If you're not expecting an email with an attachment or a link, do not open those things. I cannot stress that enough. This is called phishing. This is one of the easiest ways that they get into your things. Do not do that. Also, there's free antivirus software. There's plenty of them out there. A lot of them come pre-installed, like with Windows, like their Defender. I can't remember what it's called, but they have a free one that comes with your machine. Yeah. And there's plenty of other ones out there that you can look into, and they're great. And they do a really good job, even for being free. The next one is pretty simple. You don't want to lose your data, so back up your machine. Keep a backup. Always have that up to date. Backup once a week or however often makes sense for you. But at least probably once a week. That way you can always, if you lose your data, you always have a backup of it, and you're at least only losing a week at that point, right? The next one, we talked about it last week or maybe the week before, but use strong passwords. I cannot stress this enough. Use strong passwords. Change your passwords regularly. If you find out that a website that you've been using your password on has been breached, change that password and stop using it other places. Those are all super important. Another thing that comes on your machine is a firewall. Most operating systems have a pre-installed firewall on them. Go into your settings, make sure that those are actually enabled. They help protect you from random things that are trying to get into your machine. Do that. The next one, not all of us can do, but it's a good practice, is minimize your downloads. A lot of viruses and things like that come into your system via downloading something from the internet. If you don't have to download something, don't just randomly start downloading a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself because that's how a lot of stuff comes into your system. And then the last thing is use a pop-up blocker. Again, there are tons of these out there. There are tons of reputable ones out there. Do your research, find the one that makes sense for you. And I mean, it just prevents so many malicious things from popping up on your screen that you just don't want to click on. So
yeah, real quick, there's just a couple of things built into Chrome even now. One is I actually have gotten this alert, which scared me a little bit, saying that, hey, we know that this password that you have saved in your keyring or whatever has been compromised. And here's all the sites that you saved it for. You need to go change that password. And I was like, oh, that's pretty handy. So thanks for that. Yeah, I think you've got a lot of great tips here, Neil. I mean, some really cool stuff that's just, baked in. Again, like the pop-up blocker, right, is baked into most browsers, but you can enhance the security and stuff on that. But yeah, no, these are great.
Yeah, and I mean, none of this stuff is like too hard to like do, and it's not really going out of your way to do it. Like a lot of this stuff, like you have already, you just need to make sure it's enabled and it's at the right settings for you. And these are tips, but by no means like an exhaustive list of things that you can do to protect yourself, right? Like there are plenty of other things that you could do. These are just the most common ways that people fail to protect themselves. So
yeah, no, that was great. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's something I have to remind myself of all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody wants your data. It sells for a pretty penny.
Especially my data.
That's right. Yours in particular, Matt. But with that, that's all we have for today. So thank you for joining us for this edition of Tech Talk Tuesday. If you want to read up on anything Matt and I talked about, or Chad and Aaron gave summaries on, you can find them in the description below. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a like and a follow or subscribe. That way you don't miss any future editions of Tech Talk Tuesday. We go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We do it every week. Yes. And if you do that, you also can keep caught up with us. So if you can't make it to the live show, you can catch up later in the week on these things. So and you don't want to miss our tech tips or our segments. So come on, guys. But if you want to have your question answered live on the show, you can hit either Matt or I up on Twitter. His Twitter handle is the Matt Ray, like I say, because he is the only one. And mine is at Neil Tardy. We would love to answer any of the questions that you guys have on the show or offline if that's how you prefer. But yeah, with that, we'll see you next Tuesday.